What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to go back and we got to talk about Marvel's Wolverine. I'm continuing the summer series, looking at a couple different games. If you guys have any suggestions, of course, you can leave it in the comments, but we've talked about a couple troubled cases so far, and we got another. Sadly, this is what we do. We kind of look at troubled franchises or games that are, in a pickle, and we dedicate a little couple weeks, to talking about them. So Wolverine, what I wanted to do is, I think we've talked about what's going on with it, where the hell is it, a lot of casual talk, but a lot of okay, everybody's kind of saying the same thing on it. I can't promise you'll hear something original here, but I want to take the angle of, has it been restarted, or did it have a reboot at some point? I think that might be a fun topic, but also kind of still, a part of the conversation, because, there just becomes a certain point where you look at this game and you look at how they've handled it. See, we've said this part before, right? PlayStation, since this game has been announced, PlayStation's strategy with announcing games has changed, okay? There was absolutely, Last of Us Part 2 was announced, I believe, at PlayStation Experience 2016, okay? So that took 3.5 years from that point to come out, all right? Now, we are approaching 4 years from trailer number 1 of Wolverine to now, okay? In fact, in 2 months from now, it'll have been 4 years since the first trailer. So it feels like a product of the time. Now, even if it was a product of the time, it still would not have been done well, because, again, Last of Us had multiple trailers, had multiple years of stuff. You can go back to Uncharted, you can go back to God of War 2018, all that stuff, okay? It was part of an era of announcing games too early, but at the very least, you did have, when I say consistent, I mean yearly consistent, which is not perfect, but at least it's better than now. You have that, okay? Nowadays, you have the polar opposite, right? Since Wolverine has been announced, and really almost exactly after that, you've had PlayStation take this very much sit back and just almost frustrate people out of anticipation for the games that came after. And I would look at two in particular, God of War Ragnarok and Marvel Spider-Man 2, right? Those two games, they really were okay, we're just not going to show or talk about it very much until 2-3 months before. So you can pick which one you like, but just to kind of illustrate, Wolverine was part of that era, and now we're in this era. It doesn't really fit well, and it makes it kind of look bad no matter what. Now, okay, well, all of that being said, where are we now? Obviously still nothing, and Insomniac almost feels like they want to talk about it, but they're being held back from PlayStation. I don't know, obviously the true story behind the scenes there. The one thing, okay, again, to kind of, spice it up and to say something kind of fresh, has the game been restarted? And I guess that's why I tell the story of what I just did, right? Because the difficult thing is, I don't think you're going to see this game until it's very close to coming out. It's almost this mix of both eras so you announced it too early, but back then you would do yearly trailers. But now you've crossed into this era where this game desperately needs to be shown to people, even just to prove that it's still around, right? But at the same time, you're in an era where the game isn't going to be shown until 3, 4, 5 months before it comes out. So it's okay, well, now you have to be super, super patient, but we weren't really raised, just even with Wolverine, we weren't raised in that era, if that makes sense. And then, of course, you have the leaks, and I guess that's really that middle point where it's is that where things shifted, right? Is the leak something that, okay, they completely restarted it, and that transferred them over now to this new system where they're not going to show anything. I mean, to specifically talk about that restart in the leaks, I wonder, I've never, because people have asked me, do you think that the leaks have caused, how much damage do you think the leaks have caused? And to me, maybe it's because I never wanted to wish for the worst. To be honest with you, for as many times as I am critical at games here and there, I really always do try to root for them, and I'm not really looking for these things to pop up in my head. I never, even when the leaks were happening and people were watching a demo, a vertical slice and all this stuff of Wolverine in action, which is terrible, by the way, and I think that did hurt, okay? I think that was not ideal for them. Did that really cause a lot of change? And it's well, from what I understand, I don't know the plot, but I know the entire plot leaked. I didn't watch. I watched one 20-second clip of something, and it was early footage. That's all I watched, but I'm led to understand that they showed a lot more, or there was a lot more to be seen than that. I also know that a lot of that stuff was shared, and a lot of people did see it. It's tough because I go back and forth, and I think I said this to a friend where It's interesting because like most people are not chronically online. That's something always to remind yourself of, and I remind myself of it all the time with the channels and stuff. But like the people that saw the Wolverine leak, I guess what I'm saying is like, is it right to assume that they would reboot everything just because some people online saw it? And I think you have to take a few steps back in that case and say, okay, how much of a big deal was it really? Now, it was a very big deal to like employees, right? Because like there was doxing and lots of bad stuff that was happening. So, that stuff is not okay and that stuff should never happen. And that stuff, even if a couple people see it, is still very legitimate, right? Like if you know my address, even if it's 2 people, that's a big deal, So I understand that. But I'm saying like people that saw early footage and literally saw the game and how it plays and all that stuff, like, is that make or break? Is that really something that you have to literally pull the plug and reset the computer, right? Like, reset the whole thing? Is that really something that causes that? Because, in the grand scheme of things, if 50, even if say 100, 200,000 people see that and say the game sells like 5 million at the end of its run, and that would probably be low. They would probably want it to do more than 5 million, but just say, okay, say 200,000 people saw it and then 5 million people buy it. Well, the vast majority of people, that exceeds it. That exceeds that number. So literally statistically, most people did not see that leak. You know what I mean? And it's why, it's something I haven't put too much thought in, but if I were to put thought into it and say, did the leaks cause some sort of hard reboot? It might have helped it. I think like some higher ups on the team left before or after the leaks. I kind of forget the timeline. So did things happen, or like did things elevate things or speed things up? Yeah, like that. It honestly could have affected it, but I don't think the actual leaking of the game should have put it into this situation. Also, I don't really want to believe that because the game, number one, I like to believe the game was just shown too early. You know what I mean? Because if it was shown too early and they started in 2020, okay, and they showed it off September of 2021, let's just say that. By the time the game comes out, hopefully, by the love of God, it would be like 6 years. Hopefully, say it comes out 2026, maybe like late 2026. Say it started 2020, COVID year, everything was messed up. Like 2020, 2021, it slowed everything down anyway. All right. So, that would work, to take 6. You don't want to take 6 years, but that's generally, that seems like the average length of a PlayStation first-party game, okay? At least, whatever, you can, like, settle that in your head. If you want to believe that, then they restart it with the leaks. You've just, like, you've lost years. You've lost years of time now, where now you have to set the start date later. And it's like, okay, so if you do that, now to expect it or even hope that it could be 2026, you're so off. You know what I mean? And that's maybe something like I don't want my brain to have to do is, okay, well, if the leaks restart it, you're looking at 27, 28 at best, right? And it's like, well, I don't really want to think about that. I kind of want to hope it's just next year. You had the PlayStation slide that we talked about a few weeks back of, the financial stuff, and they show the graphic of Wolverine and Intergalactic. Now, they show it in 2026 or later. I don't think Intergalactic is coming out in 2026. I think Jason Schreier has also said that's just not going to happen. But, hopefully Wolverine sneaks in to 2026. Hopefully that means something, that slide. So, yeah, that's just, I don't know, that's kind of where I stand on it now. Obviously, we need to see it. It's almost separate. Like, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different in this video because I think I've said enough times, like, it is embarrassing. It should be embarrassing. And I say that with love. I say that, like, Insomniac has made some of my favorite games of all time, favorite franchises. They're super talented. I wish Wolverine all the best. But, yeah, I mean, like, the league, I don't want to say, like, I don't care what happened, but I kind of do want to say it where, like, it's been 4 years. After 2 or 3, it starts to just look embarrassing. I think it's right to kind of just like, point out. We do it all the time. I laugh at Kingdom Hearts all the time, and Kingdom Hearts is like top 2, top 3 franchise of my life. Like, it should be embarrassing when you announce a game and you announce it knowingly too early, and then it goes 2, 3, 4. I mean, again, like 1 or 2, fine. 3, 4, 5 years, once it starts to do that, it's like, all right, that was a huge mistake. I guess there's really nothing you can do about that other than to release a good game, but that's what I'm hoping for. That's why they're almost separate things. I think you can say it's embarrassing how it's been handled, but then also say, okay, well, what could have caused it? And then also say all 3 things at the same time. Say, well, I hope it's a good game at the end of the day. And it could be. And it actually very much should be a good game at the end of the day. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.